Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this 18th session of the ITAM Best Practice webinars. My name is Nicolas Rousseau. I'm a product manager for IT Asset Management, and today we will spend time on the news, like every month, on the news on what is coming soon, and also we will deep dive on a topic which is quite important to my heart, which is SAM optimization with the SAM optimization hub that was released back in 2022 or 2 in December. And I will describe and we'll spend an hour with you showing a little bit what is the logic, how it works, and what are the underlying reports and so on. So let's move on. The agenda will be quite simple. We will, as usual, go through the last session's pointers, and I will answer two questions. And there were two questions last week or last month, actually. We will then go through the news about the latest news on the SAM Best Practice Hub, as well as the recent release, or actually approaching release of 2022 R2.2. Which is just implemented for some of our customers in the world, and that will be implemented for the rest of the world next week. And we will have a preview of 2022 R2.3, which is bringing more features that I will quickly describe. I will quickly describe these features because I will spend most of the time for this presentation on the SAM optimization hub with a simple agenda, which is where are these SAM optimization hubs, or where is this SAM optimization hub in the ITAM evolution, in the product, ITAM product or Flexera Manager product evolution. We then describe the general approach for this hub, and then I will deep dive in some of the underlying reports, knowing that there are many reports that are sort of the bricks of this SAM optimization hub. So we will not have time to deep dive into each of them, but I will give you an overview of what each report does and how you can analyze and interpret the data of the hub. So let's start with the last session pointer. It was about using allocation and exemptions for optimal license position. The recording and PowerPoint. So just like this session will be recorded, and you will find the recording in the SAM. Okay, so yeah, so I'm just told, somebody is maybe confused. I'm sharing my screen, so you may have two tabs in your web browser. I was in the first slide, which is showing the title. But this is also the background of this report, and we can in the media check this in the media tab. You will see that I'm showing now the agenda and moving next to the last session pointers. Good. So this is moving on. Perfect. As usual, the recording, just like this presentation, will be historized and recorded and made available. You can find this recording in the Flexera community, in the events and webinars section. And this is where you will find the managing allocation and exemption recording. This is a video with all the agenda, detailed agenda, as well as the presentation I used, which is a PDF of a PowerPoint. So hopefully you can find that. And if you want more globally in the community to access all the community hub articles and the news, so you need to go from the welcome page to community hub, and then go to events and webinars in English, not in German. And you will find all of the announcements with, for instance, a coming session. Actually, no, it's a past session, so I will not talk about this one, but there are some sessions which go beyond the ITAM best practice webinars and delivery, and you can find the announcements. So if you subscribe to it, you will get the emails about the next announcements, and you can find the recordings of the previous sessions. Let's move on. There were some questions about a topic that I'm going to address today. So, are the KPI dashboard and SAM operations hub and the SAM optimization hub will they be available for on-premise or just for Flexera One? And the answer is no. They will be, or yes, they will be available for on-premise and Flexera One. You don't need to have Cognos installed. So these hubs are using data which is historized in the data warehouse, but we are reading this data with, I would say, native widgets and not using Cognos. So if you're on-premise, if you migrate to 2022 or 2, you will get the SAM optimization hub I'm going to present. And if you are, let's say, a previous version, if you migrate, let's say, in June of this year to the 2023 R1 version, which is the next on-premise version, you will get both dashboard, both the SAM optimization hub, including the trends that I will show today, plus the SAM operations hub. Second question was, in the KPI dashboard, we will have the ability to filter the location. I will just show actually quickly the dashboard, the SAM operations hub. And indeed, there is an enterprise filter that will allow to slice the KPIs by enterprise group and so on and so on. So, I will go back to that a little bit later in this presentation. Okay, so moving on. So the questions were not very large and complicated. If we talk about the news now, ITAM 2022 R2.2 got released today for some European, for instance, customers. Will be next week for customers in the US, and you will have new features, which are as usual. I should put the link to the online documentation. I will show you. But as usual, you can have an access to what are the new features of this this version, which is just being released, and the next version, which is 2022 R2.3. So as usual, I'm showing quickly how you can access the feature by release. And even if you're on premise, 99.9% of features for cloud customers will be on premise. I will mention actually the only one which will not be on premise in a minute. So if you type docs.flexera.com, you get access to the list of Flexera products, Flexera One, IT Asset Management. This is where we are. And this, IT Asset Management features by release document will show you month by month everything that will be released or will be released very soon or got released recently, and you can access all the details. So if I show back the PowerPoint, one of the big things you will see and that you will see today is that the trends in the optimization hub are added to the existing widget. So that's another dimension of this KPIs, optimization KPI that will be displayed. A big item for some customers who are intensively using Linux VMs on that system is that we are now able to inventory the VMs. This was the agent released in January, actually, that can do that. And we are now also able to display the right level of hierarchy for these virtual machines, because you have actually up to 5 levels of hierarchy, which are leading to 5 levels of capping if you're calculating the license consumption for, let's say, Oracle or IBM PVU subcapacity. So we have extended the agent to collect the data. We've extended the agent to collect all the stacks of the architecture for these VMs on that system. And we have enhanced the calculations and the reports to show these levels that you have in the consumption. So we also have added the trend I was saying, and we have extended the screens of ITAM with some tactical items which are very practical if you use intensively the tool. For instance, this eServer flag that you have in the reporting since December and that on-premise customer have on 2022 R2. You also have this same server flag in the inventory sprint, all inventory and active inventory. As well, we have added the cluster in the allocation, apply allocation and exemption stream. So now you can allocate all VMs belonging to a cluster and not go one by one on the hosts of the cluster. For instance, if this cluster has a low Windows Server density, it will be better to cover the cluster using the standard edition version of Windows Server, edition of Windows Server. So this is another thing. A new report has been released, which is called the Merge Device Inventory Issues. And this is one of the many reports that will come with the SAM Operations Hub that we see on the right. The idea of the SAM Operations Hub is to understand, the SAM performance, and the big topic is around inventory. Can I trust my inventory? That's a big question that you see here, if you have good eyes. So this report is catching some cases where you may have false positives in your estate. So just to show maybe and make it more concrete, I'm going to relog. There is a new node for Flexera 1 ITAM, which is called SAM Operations. And you can see more and more reports. So if you go to reporting, you go to the bottom of the right part, and you see this, Oh, actually, sorry. Here, I'm on. So the US cloud has not yet been upgraded. So if you go to a UAT version that is to the latest version, in the latest version, you will see there is a new SAM Operations node, operations report, that includes, some of the report that got released recently, VMs inventory gaps from vCenter. Very interesting if you want to understand if you have inventoried with the scanner all your VMs reported by vCenters. And you have this new merge device issues analysis, which is a quite technical report, but it will be interesting for people who are trying to deep dive into the information and understand if there are false positives that should be removed by deleting the oldest records for the computers that have been merged. So that's one of the reports. And if we go back to the presentation, there will be more reports coming, more reports for the SAM Operations Hub. For instance, vCenter inventory issues, a report that will analyze all the vCenters that have been found when the discovery date is older than, more recent than the inventory date. The last error if the last inventory of the vCenter failed. So a lot of information that will be very helpful to manage this sort of a foundational topic, which is collecting VMs, hosts, clusters, links through the vCenter inventory. So this is for 2022 R2.2, this new report. And end of March, we will have the 2022 R2.3 that will include the SAM Operations Hub, including snapshot, trends, an enterprise filter, which is the answer to the question that was asked. So I don't have actually handy a version that has the enterprise filter. But if I show a Word document, which was used to actually contain all the KPIs, all the data, you will see that this SAM Operations Hub on the top has an enterprise filter like the product summary or license summary screens. And this enterprise filter allows to slice the data for cost centers, locations, corporate units, and on the fly, the KPIs will be recomputed for instance, on-premises offline VMs, awaiting inventory VMs, which are these vCenter reported VMs, out-of-date inventory, and so on and so on. You will see that this information will, and the trends, will also be sliced according to the choice you will make in the enterprise filter. This information can be sliced because it's very often about devices, virtual machines, inventory data, and we have the links to the enterprise groups, the corporate units, location, and cost centers. So that confirms, the answer I was giving to the question. What else? We'll also have, more reports, of course, which are under this SAM operations hub. So from each KPI, you will have actually a link that will link to the report, giving all the details of what you will see here. And you will get explanation that will also give a link, but internally, in the section of the hub where everything is explained. So these are the reports. And we will have an in-tune inventory adapter coming in the end of March. And more things that I will share in the next SAM best practice webinar, but these are the main things I wanted to share. And next topic, the SAM best practice hub. So contains many pointers to existing best practice. Oh, actually, I forgot an important one, which is coming end of March. And that will be for cloud customers. And this is actually referenced in this SAM best practice hub. So if you click on this link, you'll access a big article, which contains, I would say, all the vision on the SAM operations hub, the SAM data transparency, or SAM publisher transparency hub, and SAM optimization. You get all the links to the previous sessions I delivered. And you will get information on many things, including on-premise solutions to import and create contracts that are part of these hubs that exist already in the community. And at the very bottom, you will see that a new section has been added about this cloud, towards more cloud intelligence. So we are going to release a cloud migration license impact simulation engine. So I'm going to share maybe the slide. It will be more useful. But this is something you will get as soon as next month if you are cloud customers. And here, this is one of the only feature that cloud customers will have and not on-premise, because it is using, a new version of the reconciliation, which is called Next-Gen Reconcile. And this reconciliation is way faster and allows to do sort of a what-if analysis on complex topics. So that's why this SAM cloud migration license impact simulation engine will be only for cloud customers. And the idea is quite simple. You select virtual machines on this list, which will be part of the migration project you are planning. You save the simulation. It's called, let's call it, Data Center 32 move to Azure and cloud. Every time you choose your virtual machines, you pick up which cloud provider you want to migrate them to. And automatically, this will be actually in a separate tab. It won't be just below the images of the virtual machines which have been saved for migration. You will get the licensing impact that will include, for all licenses, the consumption before, the consumption after, the change values and the costs. And you will see, you will get an overall understanding of the impact of moving these VMs in a license perspective. So nothing magic. It is just reusing what the licenses can do today, which is having specific rules for cloud providers. We know that for Oracle. We know that for Windows Server. IBM, there is a little question mark because this is complex actually to catch the peaks and simulate some peaks. So that's I would say a different story. But what you will get through this simulation engine is the understanding based on existing features of the licenses that count differently cloud consumption and on-prem consumption. You will get the license impact and the cost impact of migration, which is a nice, extension to the CCO product that Flexera has. We have a full product line managing cloud cost optimization and cloud migration, CM. And this, CCM allows to manage and understand the architecture and infrastructure costs. We are bringing this additional angle on the license cost, and this data will, we will think about integrating the data and bringing this data to provide the full picture of the migration cost impact. Okay, so let's move on to the SAM optimization hub. I will have some slides. I will show some reports directly on the instances, and maybe just to show you, what the SAM optimization hub looks like today. So you see here, if I go to this UAT, it's actually not a production system, it's a pre-sale system actually. If you go to the SAM optimization hub, you see that things have evolved. If you run previously on your instance the SAM optimization hub, you were seeing this top part, which is showing details on how much ITAM makes or Flexera makes you save, and how much you could save by taking action. And now you see that you will have the evolutions. I would say the trend regarding the current saving or realized saving is not very interesting. It's reflecting more, how your clusters density have evolved. So it's a little bit hard to interpret. However, this save by taking action will be extremely interesting, because if you see a decreasing trend, that for instance you're at Oracle waste, which is here which is actually 3 million. We have moved to a logarithmic scale. So because the cost differences are such that it was not very easy to read the data. So now we're using a logarithmic scale. And you see here that, for instance, to save the 3 million, you should move virtual machines to specialized cluster. This is the topic. And if you see month by month this trend decrease, it means that you have actually done and performed the actions of optimizing your clusters, your VMware clusters, to decrease the waste associated to the self-partitioning rule of Oracle that says if one VM with one option or with Oracle database is in a cluster, you should consume and cover all the ESX servers for the cluster, because the VM could move. So this is it for the new trend, and I will spend most of the demo actually on another instance, which is demo, which is showing some demo data. So let's move on, and let's go back to the PowerPoint. And then, the last topic I wanted to show, but I don't have my email open to avoid getting too many messages. You probably received 2 days ago the February ITAM newsletter that has a number of articles, which is a little bit in resonance with this session. So it's giving the pointers to the last session. It's giving news. There is an article, an important news about the Java evolution in licensing that happened in January. Basically, if you have one licensed version of Java deployed, you need to license all your users. So it's a company-wide user licensing thing. So in this newsletter, you will get a pointer to a very interesting blog article written by Jan Brocher, who is ITAM director for product management, and you will get interesting information. So if you did not receive, or if you want to receive, please share your email address in the questions. I will, at the end of this session, collect all the questions to answer them the next time. And if I get requests for adding to the newsletter, please ask, and I will share the emails with the customer success management team, which is managing this newsletter. Let's move on. Okay, SAM optimization hub. So we will see, as a first step, in the context of how ITAM and Flexera Manager have evolved over the time. It's a little bit of history, and then you will see what is the general approach of the hubs, of this hub, and the underlying reports. Let's move on. So I wanted to show in this first slide that I would say forever, Flexera Manager and ITAM have been solid and accurate, which means solid design, scalable, complex license types, powerful normalization, extensive coverage. So these are things that we have done forever. SCCM Landesk I joined Flexera in 2013. So I would say forever we had these settings, and being Oracle database verified, for instance, was happened probably in 2003 13, if I remember well. So we have a number of things that have kept being always true, which make the tool solid and reliable. In the between 2015 and 2022, let's say, we had, of course, the cloud version of Flexera Manager. We have started to do PV licensing and being a replacement of IAMT, getting more Oracle verifications, middleware, Java, managing as well as possible the streamed applications, Citrix with Citrix Cloud coming now, Horizon containers, which is more in the virtualization side. So, and what is coming next? Next-gen reconcile. That's what I described. This is an enhanced reconciliation algorithm, which is using more modern, technology. So for cloud customers, which is faster, which allows to compute consumption in islands and parallelize some processes. We were extending on ZVM, Intune, container consumption for more publisher. And also, because today license consumption is managed only for IBM, Nutanix Prism will come. So we keep being a solid tool. What has evolved and accelerated, I would say, over the time is being clever and useful. Actually, being solid and accurate is a way of being clever, but we have extended a little bit on that angle. For instance, the simulation engine, the old simulation engine that allows to remove cores, add cores, or uninstall applications, make simulations and understand the costs of this was created quite a while ago. It was in the tool since 2013. And you've seen probably an acceleration in the last 2 years around optimization. That's the topic of today. Oracle, Windows, SQL Server, Red Hat, named user applications and subscriptions. And the intelligent restriction that we got in December that allows to restrict a license to a computer group or a user group, which is actually a report. So all of this makes the tool, more, I would say, fine-tuned and changing from perspective, which is I'm counting well to I'm counting well, and even I'm giving you advice on how to save money. And that I will insist a little bit on that. And of course, we keep on this, I would say, analysis and intelligence side, we expand. So this is this cloud migration license impact simulation engine that we see soon, the intelligent allocation and exemption that is coming later this year, and the optimization calculation that we see here being reported on the license script themselves. So this is how we evolve and we accelerate on being clever. And what I'm going to expand, the same optimization hub is actually a new angle. A new angle that consists in being more business-centric and showing value. So the tool is not just here to provide data, but it's here to answer questions, which started to be done in the reports. But that will be expanded in the way the SAM Optimization Hub, but also the SAM Operations Hub, which is the coming one, and the SAM Publisher Hub that will come later, which will be a publisher-centric view of all your compliance, costs, inventory data, and so on. The idea that instead of trusting that you will go to the right screens, trusting that you will find the right reports, trusting that you will create the right reports, we are giving you an entry point that is in a business context. For instance, what are my SAM optimizations? What did I realize? What could I realize? Same thing for the SAM operations, which is answering the very basic but very complex question. Am I performing well? Can I trust what I'm doing? Am I doing the right things in terms of creating licenses and so on? And the SAM Publisher Hub will be about what about Microsoft, which is a vast question. You will get in a single screen a view on your compliance, on your risk, on your spending, on the upcoming contracts, which will allow to slice the data that we have today dispersed in many screens and show it in a unique pane of glass. And finally, the last and the next step, I would say, for us is to be more attractive and integrated. So the technology of ITAM has evolved a lot. The UI could be refreshed a little bit. And the idea that we're going to use the normalization of the ITAM Flexera One ITV platform instead of calculating and normalizing ourselves with ITAM the data, the ITAM business, I would say, the ITAM portal will consume the ITV normalization, and it will accelerate, for instance, the time spent on inventory import. There will be more to come, better integration with SaaS Manager. Today we get all the subscriptions information, the users' active subscriptions. On the usage side, we can do more. We are managing well what is performed with Microsoft 365. There will be more to come about other SaaS application usage. Cross-domain navigation is also, it's about being more integrated. So from the detail of a server, an Oracle database server in ITAM, we will be able to understand the consumption of the ESX server or of the cluster. We'll be able to understand the cost, and we will be able to drill through ITV that will give us end-of-life information for the exact version of Oracle database that ITAM will present as Oracle database 19c, while ITV will show 19.0.5, which has an end-of-life of 2026, September 1st. So this is where we go, and this is our journey. And of course, what we talk about today is focus on the optimization, making the data more user process driven, and helps. I will go through that. I will not cover all the reports. Each report has a very good documentation, but this is where we go, and this is where it is positioned in our journey, ITAM journey. So the SAM optimization hub summarizes the achieved optimization. This is this part. And I will explain it a bit more. It summarizes the potential optimization for the snapshot, but also the trend. And it provides a drill down and detailed explanations for the reports that have been released actually for years, but that were not surfaced yet with this hub. And the approach, so this is the first hub of a series. I've talked a lot about the SAM Operations Hub coming soon, but also the SAM Publisher Hub. The goal is to surface sophisticated data. So each of the report gives information, even the summarized savings or potential savings and so on. But in the end, the goal is also to attract attention, because if you have 20 reports that do a good job doing very detailed calculations, if you don't show the big picture, people are, unless they love details, people are not tempted to understand and deep dive on the topic. So the idea is to attract the attention. Will the saving be exactly the one you will be obtaining? Maybe not. That's why you need to drill down on the report. You need to fine tune, understand what are the costs. Did you set up the right cost on the licenses, which is very useful for the optimization to be computed. Do you agree with what the calculation does? We assume, for instance, that you don't have a ULA on Oracle, and that you are doing soft partitioning at cluster level. So this is a big assumption. There are other reports which are showing other types of soft partitioning. But the idea that from a big number, very often the numbers will be very big, you can drill down, you can understand and use the documentations which are provided, and you can understand the savings or the actions which are required. So as I said, two types of optimization, the realized. And what is a realized optimization? This is, I would say, the clever way versus the classical /easy /conservative /expensive. So it's a very simple story. Typically, Red Hat, if you use Red Hat Enterprise Linux for data center nodes, every time you have an ESX server, you will probably spend way more money than if you were splitting the licenses you have on Red Hat Enterprise between the server node edition, which is good for physical hosts, physical computers, perfect, but also good for clusters which have low density. Low density because you need actually to license consistently a full cluster with ESX. That's an important thing. With ESX, with Red Hat, sorry. So you need to be consistent. So same for years and years. Things have changed a little bit since October, but for years and years, everybody was licensing all ESX servers with Windows Server Data Center Edition, which allows an unlimited number of VM, which doesn't have the 90-day mobility issue that standard edition had. Things have changed, so I recommend you go back to the session I provided last month, 2 months ago, which was a full Windows Server and CIS reconciliation in 1 hour. I deep dive into the topic, which is the per VM new licensing introduced if you have software assurance, which is also managed by the report. So this is about the classical way, the expensive way. On the other side, the potential optimization or the optimization you will get by taking action. This one I would say is even more interesting. It can be converted, but it requires actions from you. And you will see this is about subscriptions. Are you actually using the application that you have subscribed to? Are you actually using the? Are you actually optimizing the Oracle database infrastructure? This is a second set of reports. And of course, the foundations must be good to work on the optimization. There is something I show often, which is the Maslow pyramid of SAM. You have the foundations, which is boring but necessary, and then you can start optimizing. Of course, make sure that you have your foundations right, which is all the goal of the SAM Operations Hub, and then you will be able to trust your inventory, to trust your data, your licenses, and check, how you can decrease your costs by taking the right actions. So I was saying earlier, this is in a series of hubs. The SAM Operations Hub, I will not talk too much about it, but this is about the data quality, SAM technical performance, and operations performance. You will see that, and I will deep dive once it will be released in April. A third hub, which I have no mock-up on, is the SAM Publisher Hub, which will be a publisher-centric view. You will be able to select the publisher, and you will get the compliance, risk, inventory, and spending with the contract renewals view from a single dashboard. So, and in this journey, from ITAM, I would say that we have moved from compliance. What did I purchase? What are my active contracts? What did I deploy? Am I compliant? What is my legal risk and my needed investment? We have moved from this to the $1 million questions, which this SAM Optimization Hub is addressing, which is what could I change to save money in my architecture? Am I really using what I deployed? Should I uninstall? How much could I save? What if I was negotiating other terms and conditions with Oracle? These are big questions that the SAM Optimization Hub is addressing. And just to show you, this is really, real data and real money that you can save. These are true stories of customers. So large bank, sorry, a large bank that saved 3 million in maintenance just on on Oracle database. Sorry. This was about moving the VMs to optimized clusters. Another experience on a pharmaceutical company that actually was under an audit. 16 million in Oracle costs were avoided, again, with these reports. It was actually before the reports were released. But there are customers now taking advantage of the Oracle optimization reports to optimize their architecture and decrease massively the cost with this sub-partitioning. And there are the same topics. This is a SQL Server optimization, Red Hat optimization, and Windows Server that got released in the last 2 years, I would say. And I have, there are stories about a large industrial company which saved 1.6 million euro a year in data center maintenance just by stopping to license all the ESX server with data center edition. Telecom company had a similar reduction every year. So this was a big story about how you can save money on Windows Server by using the 90-day peaks of the VMs, which allows to use the standard edition, even if you have this constraint of the mobility rule. And on the named user optimization, which was released in 2022 1.4, a mid-sized company, media company, saved 50K on Adobe, all apps, thanks to this report, which is basically telling you user per user, this is a subscription, this is how much he's using, and this is how much he could save by moving to a cheaper subscription. So just to tell you that these dashboards are not just nice and colorful things. If you take the time, and that's really one thing I feel our customers could enhance. That's my big joy in life, is when I have a call with a customer, with the cloud customer, we check the same optimization hub, and I start deep diving into one topic, and people open their eyes and say, "Oh, that's true, Red Hat, okay. Oh, this is how my cluster are this is the density of my clusters. I see indeed that 80% of my clusters have a very low average number of VMs per Red Hat Linux VM per host, and then you can start the conversation just by starting from the hub. I will not spend too much time. There are more slides about each of the reports. Of course, it's better that I show you the hub. So let's move on and open the hub. But in this presentation that will be saved, you will get the details, all the screenshots. So if I go back to this Flexera 1 demo, I can run the hub, which is here. If you are an on-premise customer, you have the hub if you use a recent version, 2022. So if you go to the management, you see these some hubs. The first one is here. There will be, some operations, publisher transparency, and when you open, you get the same thing, but the trends will be actually tomorrow for or next week for US customers are already in EMEA available, and on premise, of course, you will need to wait for the 2022-2023 R1 version. So what do we see if we check the hub? Maybe I could zoom a little bit, just to make it easier to read. So here, this one has no enterprise filter, important to keep in mind, because the data is extremely complex. The data is extremely complex when you want to calculate optimization. Let's say on an ESX server, you can see 2 VMs out of the 50 VMs which are on the ESX server. You can see the ESX server. The report, which is the Windows Server Optimization report, will tell you, oh, you should use standard edition because you have 2 VMs. Of course, you don't see the others. It will come that we were so clever that we saved you 20K on the host because you could have used the ESX Data Center Edition license to cover this host. But this is just because your authorization were not showing you the full picture. So it was impossible, to compute the data. User per user would have been possible, but storing the data, which is different for every single user, depending on the possible use rights he has and scoping he has. So we decided that scoped user who have a profile that doesn't allow access to everything, will get basically a message saying, sorry, we can't tell you the details because it's, I would say it's the data cannot be related to each individual user process scoping, including for the trends. But then, what you can see is the 2 big sections, counting a more efficient license consumption. This is what we call the realized optimization, which is what you can get in the reports versus what you would get by, for instance, taking the easy way, which is covering all ESX server with here I'm going to drill down to Red Hat Linux Enterprise. This Red Hat Enterprise Linux license optimization, run the report, and you see that's quite simple report. There are more complex ones. If I focus, of course, the computers will always be cheaper in a Red Hat Enterprise Linux server. But if you talk about device type, if you talk about hosts, we have 7 hosts in this small demo environment. You will see that some hosts would be better to be licensed with Red Hat Linux for data centers. We give you the explanations for this cluster, because the important thing is, the optimization is at cluster level. So here, we have a unique cluster which has 2 hosts. You could have, randomly at a given time, a host with, let's say, 10 VMs and a host with 1 VM. The report will actually count up to the cluster what would be the total cost for licensing Red Hat Linux Data Center Edition or a Red Hat Linux, enterprise server, and it gives you the best choice. And if you go, on the right, you see that everything is explained. So a very important thing, there is a cost, per point, or a cost per core, for if we talk about the Windows server and the Red Hat server. And I would say the first thing before you trust anything on the hub is to understand, if this cost is your cost, that the report is actually catching from existing licensee. So here, if it finds a license, which is still maintained, of course, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, this is the maintenance. So a maintained license, which covers the Red Hat Enterprise Linux product, and which is containing data centers in its name. We have to guess a little bit here, because it's not about the covered product, but the edition. Then, we will call that internally is the reference license, and the cost you will see will be actually reflected by the cost that you put on your license. And the cost that you put on your license, just to be very clear, here, I'm not even sure we have in this demo system a Red Hat Linux license, let's see. But the cost you put on your license, this is a little bit a cascade. A cascade, which means that depending on your choice, if you have purchased data which has a cost, it could be, let's wait a little bit. If you are, okay, let's wait. If you have a cost which is related to your purchase, it will be taken into account. I would say that the last option for the price per write. Okay. I feel I have an issue with my authentication. Let's wait. Okay. I will actually open in this screen. Okay, not sure what happened. So if I go to Red Hat, I'm not sure I have a Red Hat license. Yes, I have one. So if you have a Red Hat Linux license, which is covered, which has the highest number of purchase, that's how we determine the reference license, then what we will do is, take either the unit price that you had of the latest purchase. This is I would say the last option. But if there is an overridden price, we take this one, which is actually what you want to show and force in terms of costs. It could be this one could be the catalog price, because you don't want everybody in your company to know the true price, but you want to get an idea. This one will be the price you purchased it, which was maybe lower than the catalog price, but you want to show a catalog price that maybe reflects if you were having an audit what you would pay. And the new thing that will come in March is that we're going to add as a first option, actually, if you have a chargeback price, which has the interest of being on a period and with an amount, you can put your chargeback price. So the way all these reports compute the price per cost, including the new option, is if you have a price here, it will use it, and will know for which period, which is nicely fitting the need for chargeback or subscriptions. If there is nothing here, the second step will be to check if there is an overridden price, which is a price you want to show, but that is always perpetual. Same. And at the last step, it will check the latest cost of the latest purchase. And what I mean, not to lose you, but the reports will look for a price for your licenses, and this is perfectly explained in the documentation. So if you open the documentation, each report has a lot of details. And when you see line by line, the cost per point, you see here, we will update once we'll have added this recharge price. The price per point will actually, is explained. So make sure that you have your license correctly set up so that the report uses your price and not the default cost. We had to show something, so we took a published cost that you can find for Red Hat for the US cost, because it's better to show something than nothing, you see here. But in the end, make sure that you have the right cost so that you can have the right calculations. And then once you trade the cost, the logic, which again is explained in full details in the report, will be that we compare cluster by cluster, what is the cost of licensing in one way, in another, and we make the choice for you. And every time the choice is to use the host, so the Red Hat Linux for server, this one, the report will tell you, oh, if you had, this is how much will cost this ESX server, given the choice. That is the best, given the size of the cluster. And it will compare, the cost for this host versus the, using the data center node edition. And of course, you get an optimization. And we sum the optimization to show you how much you save using the recommended choice. How do you then, reflect that in your license? It's exactly what I demoed for the January some best practice webinar, which was how to use the allocations, the new license, intelligent license scoping, to make sure that the right licenses will try to cover the right VMs. But in the end, this report will be the analysis or even the allocation used for the allocation business adapter studio. And you will be able to get and understand, what is the saving of the right choice versus the easy choice. So I will not, I go back to SM Optimization Hub. I will not go to each of these reports, but the logic is always the same. And you will see in the, so the logic is really to compare SQL Server Enterprise Edition. If you choose it systematically for an ESX that has virtual machines with Standard Edition and Enterprise Edition, you will spend more than if you split. So if I deep dive on this report, if I run the report, you will see that there is one column which is a recommended license for the host. And you see this case, which is actually where you can save money, not choosing blindly to use SQL Enterprise every time you have a mix. This one says, oh, yes, for cluster X, you have a portion of your VMs. So this virtual machine, which has SQL Enterprise, and this virtual machine, which has Standard Edition, would better be licensed. For each VM should be licensed by the Enterprise Edition and the Standard Edition license. While sometimes, if you have stacked virtual machines, let's say a host with 10 VMs, each VM is installed with one is with Enterprise, another is with Enterprise, and the others are with Standard Edition. It is cheaper in the end to use, the Enterprise Edition license to cover the full stack. So it's very hard to calculate. Now, people, who are making business in doing that in Excel, the tool is doing that. The doing is doing the comparison, and again, check the cost that we use, cost per core, and check, what we call the reference license, which is here. So here, it was not found. So make sure that the reference license that we display for Windows Server and SQL Server is correctly recognized based on the recognition patterns, and you can influence the cost by making sure that the reference license is correctly set up with an operating cost runs. Okay, so this is about the savings. Oracle, so if we go to the other part of the dashboard, and again, if you have a doubt, everything I'm explaining is here. And then you can go to the report. And once you are on the report, you can see Windows Server. I did not show this one. You can see this is a new per VM licensing. Go back to the recording of January. I explain it a lot. You see what is the report. And once you're on the report, you can check on the detailed documentation. So this is really a drill down process. And the first step is the big number and the explanation that you get in this HUD. So now I'm going to move to the other part, which is maybe even more interesting. Save by taking action. There are two big categories, and it's described here. So Oracle optimization, is the big topic that has kept everybody busy for very long. So I will show that on my local demo system, which has more interesting data. You see here, 40 million, which is an incredibly high number. 40 million is actually, because in my demo system, I have a lot of clusters, which are very big, with a lot of hosts, which are very big, but very few VMs. So of course, the optimization that is computed will be very high. For instance, the idea of this report, which is very interesting, and again, it's either taking a default cost of $5,000 per write, or it's taking the true cost of your licenses, because it's reading, your advanced compression license consumption, for instance. So once you have created your Oracle options licenses, once you have set up a cost, which is, not this default 5,000, but it needs to start from something, you will get, the report will check all the VMs one by one. You see here the VMs, and will identify which are the options in use, including Oracle database, and it will suggest clusters, which is nothing else than moving the VMs, which are consistently deployed with the install and use options. But here, I'm showing something with 20 rows. True customers have sometimes, sometimes 5,000 VMs with, instances. Things keep changing. So it's very interesting to have this view, this unique pane of glass that will tell you, these VMs, which today are in 2 different clusters, which is, in total consuming this amount, are, should be moved to a smaller cluster. That would be named, not very beautiful, but, from the options which are activated. So this is Oracle database advanced compression. And suddenly you're saving, and this is something that has been added in 2022 or 2. The report is comparing the source architecture, the target architecture, and is computing the saving for each option, and also for the total savings. So and the numbers, are accurate. I mean, they use, if you have set up your licenses with the true costs, they will use your license cost and basically count in the mix of clusters and hosts that you have at your current situation. It will compare these costs with total cost and total consumption to the target architecture that is basically creating smaller clusters with less cost and specialized. And keep in mind, we are integrated with IBM Turbonomics, and this is exactly what Turbonomics does. It can then orchestrate the virtual machines to the optimal clusters. So it means seeing a report that tells you, oh, you should do that. If you are then the technical way of making it happen, it's extremely powerful. So that's about our Oracle database. Just to go back to the hub, you see that on Oracle database we do more. There are these reports which are showing the consumption by partitioning rule. What if I was using the soft partitioning? What if I was using so maybe I will run, not sure if I have good data here, but this report will compare, the costs that you would pay. And one that is new, that is very interesting, is if you were doing affinity partition, which means that if on an ESX virtual machine installed with Oracle in a cluster, virtual machine installed with Oracle advanced compression cannot reach one of the hosts, given the affinity rules that we know in the tool. And there is a detailed report that shows all the details, the affinity rules, where the VMs can move, and so on. Here, you understand what is your cluster partition cost, what is your ESX partition cost, which I've not seen a lot, and then you see the financial impact of moving from the classical thing, which is cluster level, to vCenter. That's a negotiation that happens a lot. You will get, so this is not an optimization, but here we're allowing you to make a comparison and an assessment of the risk of moving to from a sub-partitioning rule to another. So the hub is going beyond, the pure optimization. It's explaining these various topics. The last one I wanted to show, a little bit over time, is about let's go back to the optimization hub. So here, we are not using the logarithmic scale, so you see the pain that Oracle was always messing up, the views. So if I want to drill down, maybe it's easier to drill down from the text, but now it's fixed. So if I go to the named user optimization report, here this one again, check the online help. It has been introduced back in June of last year. So all these reports have been existing for a while now. If you check the help, you will see that it's, okay, maybe I have an issue on my local instance. Okay, so you will check the help that normally runs. And this report, if I group by license, checks for all the users who have an active let's say Creative Cloud Complete. It will check user by user a lot of information, which is, what is your current subscription? Good. If you go on the right, actually, that's not the one I wanted to show, this one. So it will show, the subscription. It will show more information, such as how many products are licensed for this subscription, and it will user by user show the current cost, which is quite easy for an end user license. It will show what are the installed applications. So it's on the right, but here maybe I'm missing with that. No, actually, I don't have a. I will go to the other instance. So if I go to this Adobe report, I'm running the named user report, which here has better data than my local demo system. And if I go to this cloud all apps, you get the flat view that is quite hard to interpret, which is this user on this computer, which is installed and consuming the license, has a cost of $3,000. I'm not sure how the cost was done, but let's say it's a multi-year cost. And it shows, which are the installed applications which are consuming the license. This is a bundle, this is complex. It is showing which ones are used. And you see here, I have more than 3 applications installed, more than 3 applications used out of 22 licensed products. This is a mix of Mac OS and Windows products, which are the. So here, we have no recommendation. Okay, that's good. No recommendation to optimize. However, if you take the next one, you will see that we can compute that this user has no installed and used application. However, we also see that this user has no active computer. So the report says, oh, be careful. There is a command that says, be careful, no computer is inventory for this user. So before stopping the subscription, you should better insert the user. And we do this job again and again. So this one, for instance, will show you that this user has 1 product installed, 1 product used. Good. So you'd better downgrade the plan for standalone product based on the installed product. And when the data is correctly set up, which is not the case here, if we have a standalone license for Photoshop, it will take the Photoshop cost. So I'm not going to go in many details, and just to show that the doc hopefully works here. You will get all the explanations in the documentation, everything. Okay, so I'm a little bit late, so I will finish with this presentation. You can find all the screenshots, the explanations in the slides. And that was a pleasure to go with you through these different reports. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon in the next some best practice webinar. Goodbye.